Hey, welcome to today's episode where we talk to Stephen Lee, productivity coach, mentor, entrepreneur, content creator, but most importantly, a follower of Jesus Christ. And on today's episode, we talk about time management from a biblical perspective. Enjoy the conversation. Well, welcome to the Inspired by Scripture podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Jorge, and today we have an amazing guest joining us today. I'm so excited. I got to meet him actually for the first time this last few days, and I have been blessed by the things that he is doing, him and not only him and his wife, but I just want to give him a warm introduction. Today we have Mr. Stephen Lee. He is a productivity coach. He is a visionary leader on a mission to amplify and impact ministries and nonprofits around the globe. With his expertise in digital marketing, and I see an aspect of storytelling there, Stephen brings a fresh perspective to the challenges facing organizations today. But as we've been talking a little bit more, he has a burden to also impact men as well. We live in a society where the world has been turned upside down, and we want to make sure, Stephen wants to make sure that he is able of impacting men around the world with a fresh perspective. Now, through his online ministry, Stephen has pioneered strategies that transform lives through digital courses and social media content. As he shares it far and wide, his passion for equipping leaders with tools they need to thrive in online, and he continues to inspire many of us. Mr. Stephen Lee, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Pastor. I am super excited to be here. We've been having such a great conversation already. I was hoping that we would have recorded them, but this is going to be great. This is going to be it. You're in for a treat, not because of me, but because we know that we're going to go deep into the word.
Amen. Exactly. And we literally have been talking about that the last few days. Man, we wish we would record these deep conversations. Right. And as we were having that conversation earlier, I thought about the same thing. Man, we should just started recording right from the beginning.
That's all right.
Yeah, of course. But, before we begin on, the topic at hand and we get into the nitty gritty, can you just share with us a bit about your background and what has inspired you to work in ministry and help men and help really others that come to you around the world?
That's a good question. Let me start off with where I was as a nominal Christian in a Sunday church, just going because my parents went, and basketball and girls. Those are the reasons why I went to church. Definitely not the right reasons. And I came to a point in my life where I thought life wasn't worth living for. So I lost purpose because I used to be heavily involved in martial arts, Taekwondo, and I thought that was going to be my career. Olympics gold medal was what I was aiming for. I was competing nationally, and that did not work out because of a stepfather that came into my life that didn't believe it was a good career choice, and I wanted to respect him. So that started my whole journey of just being depressed at first and not knowing why I'm alive, to finding God and him becoming my purpose and his purpose becoming my purpose, of giving hope to those who need hope, who are hopeless, and sharing the hope that I found in Jesus. So that really took me in a different direction than what I thought. And eventually, I being someone who was quite shy as a man, who didn't have the right father figures in my life, and a lot of people considered me as more feminine. I had a lot more friends who were girls than boys. I didn't know how to relate with other men. And so I think God really kind of took me in that journey of first not knowing how to be a man, not having the right examples, to now being happily married with a beautiful wife who is not just beautiful, but she is powerful for the Lord. And so I I would have I definitely thought she was out of my league, but God somehow has grown me and worked it out so that we will be in ministry together.
Amen.
And so that's where I am now. And I'm just saying with other men, I am impressed more recently, even though we've been doing a lot of things for women and men. My wife has a home ministry of catering to other women, New Wives Club, to single ladies lounge. But for me, I've been impressed more that men needs resources as well, and helping all of us to come up higher as what God has called us to be. And I think the world is confused. Men out there in the world are confused, and we have let go of certain standards, and we lost touch in what God has called us to be. So that's who I am trying to be, and I'm hoping that other people may be with me as I go in that journey.
Absolutely. I'm extremely inspired. Again, he was at Southern Adventist University, and they did a training on marriage prep while in school. And his perspective on a lot of the dynamic of a relationship really stood out to me. I really enjoyed the dynamic that you and your wife had. We spoke about it last night about, how, she really allows you to lead. And I think, especially as a man, we live in a society where, because things are upside down, women want to lead, and then,
right.
we have to follow. But, we see throughout the Bible, God has developed a certain structure
Yes.
For us to have a successful society.
Mm-hmm.
And when men are confused, when we don't have a shining light, when we don't have the Bible, we tend to do things backwards, sideways, but everything because we think this is the right way, but God's way is always the right way, right? So I really enjoy, and I really am inspired by your passion to lead other men. Again, because we live in a society where we're under attack, where we want to today bring out a lot of biblical principles. But as we go deeper, we want to also talk about something that you expressed to me that you've had also a passion for, is time management,
Yes.
right? We see, if I were to, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, if I were to put time management on a priority list, or on the things that people struggle with the most, could I say time management is number one? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely see that. No matter where you are, who you are, what background you have, different stages of life, time affects us all. And that time is so valuable to us because we all have limited amount of time on this earth. And I think most of us don't even, I don't think we can even conceive the value of time. Truly understand that value of not just time on earth, but the infinite amount of time on eternity.
The time in heaven, we can't grasp it. And we always talking about, we want to spend eternity in heaven, but really, what would that look like? And just in our little feeble minds to think, we want to spend eternity in heaven, but compared to what we see time, it's such a difference in that view. And the Bible talks a lot about time, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Right? We see the parable of the talents, right? In Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 through 30, we see a parable where a master entrusts talents, not talent as gifts, but money, currency, to a few of his servants. And then we see two of the servants are able to multiply those talents, but one servant just buries the talent for some reason.
Yeah.
And then what we see the master come back, and he commends the faithful servants for multiplying, for making the best use of their time and talents. And he rebukes the unfaithful servant because, in essence, he showed, in a sense, a laziness and a lack of productivity. So we see the Bible emphasize in this specific parable time management. So maybe let's unpack that a little bit. So what did time management look like for you? Maybe how you said you were raised secularly in a Sunday, keeping home, versus as you began to transition a more maybe more Christian, more I want to say more a diligent Christian.
Yeah.
Now you're a Seventh-day Adventist. How did that transition look like? What did time management look like you before, and how does it look like now?
When you're young, you feel like you have all the time in the world. So I don't think I ever considered having a limited time. Even when I was in school, I know that I was busy, but there was still time to do other things, a little bit here and there. You know, you always have time to date. For some reason, you have time to date, right?
Time for that.
Yeah, right. So I didn't really know the importance of time or see the limitations until I started getting involved in ministry. And so when I started getting in ministry, I felt like Jesus is coming soon and I have to pour everything into this work so that one more soul can be saved and the gospel will go forth to the world. And I was part of a media ministry. And for me, it was so busy because we have limited number of people doing so many things. And so most of us were figuring things out as well. We're not professionals by trade. And so whether it's doing how to record an audio or doing a video or how to design a recording program or stage, all those things, video editing to graphic design, all of those things we were kind of trying to teach ourselves at the same time. We wanted to do well, but we didn't have time to do everything. I remember just for several days, I had maybe 2 hours of sleep each night because we were launching this new program. We were going to have 24 hours of program back to back and for people on internet. And so people could come in to this one site and watch all these different spiritual programs online with you know, no matter where you are on earth, so that every time zone could be covered. And I have to make sure, because we programmed the scheduling software ourselves. We made it ourselves, so there were a lot of bugs. And so I have to be there to check if everything was going well and putting things in place. There are some manual aspects of it. And literally, I would have maybe 2 hours of sleep each night because all day I'm working, all night I'm working, and it still didn't feel like it was enough. And so starting then, I felt that I need to learn how to do this more efficiently. I have so much more to do. I have life as well, right? Outside of work. And so how am I going to put all these things together? And I think that's when God was trying to teach me, Stephen, you can be more efficient with your time. Let's start organizing and putting structure into your life so that you can still do as much, maybe even more, but not feel overwhelmed, not feel stressed, not feel like things are slipping through your fingers because you forgot and you're mentally tired. And so that's when I started to kind of get into this productivity space.
Oh, yes, because you're a productivity coach, right? Is that what you said? So what does that look like? What does a productivity coach address mainly?
You know, we have to understand that time is same for all, 24 hours a day. So even though I say it's time management, it's more so energy management and focus management. So when it comes to all the things that we have to do, I will sit down with you and say, you know, where are we trying to go with your life? What are some big goals and achievements you want to have in your life? Are they important to you and important to God? And aligning those things first, and then say, how are we getting there? What are we doing to get there? How fast do we want to get there? And so can we schedule and start structuring and organizing your life so that everything that you do is aligned with what God wants you to do? Because God knew how much time we needed on earth, no matter who you are. He made time in a certain way that is limiting, and that is 24 hours in a day and 7 days a week. He had a purpose for that. And so when we feel like it's too much, like we have too much to do and not enough time, it probably means that you're doing certain things that God has never really called you to do. Or it could be that you're not being efficient with what God has called you to do, to accomplish everything He tells us to do.
You had an interesting quote that actually made me reflect on, if I can find it here on your LinkedIn. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. but you had an interesting quote. Maybe like you said something in the sense where, everything, a lot of things are good, but choosing the best thing. What was the quote that you had here? Anyways, I was like reading your LinkedIn profile and I thought that was such a good quote.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But,
I don't remember.
Now, well, maybe let's look at, as a productivity coach, as you coach men, and do you also coach women or
yes?
Okay.
Right now I do more
men,
more women now because
okay.
they care more about time, unfortunately.
What is that?
Yeah,
man, we have to care more.
Yeah, unfortunately they come to me more and it's like, I need help.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And I think, especially as a man, we think sometimes we got hold of the reins. Like we got it. We don't need help. I can figure this out. And, especially growing up, this is something I learned the hard way is asking for help is okay, right? Reaching out to those who have done it, who have done the trial and error and figure out and picking their brains. Now, you mentioned, as you analyze someone, what are some factors that you see, especially maybe with men or women, that are contributing to poor management skills, poor time management, or productivity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see there could be so many components depending on the person. So some of them is not thinking time as money. So what that means is, when it comes to good management of money, what comes to your mind when you say good management? How do you manage money?
I think like spending or saving.
Yes, having categories like that, budgeting your money, right? So how much goes where and how much the different portions of money, percentages even, going to different places, bills to food to going out or savings, right? You have budgets. Why don't we do that with time? If time is even more limiting than money, right? So I've seen a lot of cases where we think of time, we have 24 hours today. We don't really think about how much of that time is going where and how specific amount of time should be going to a specific category. So if it is your well-being, your health, whether it's rest or exercise, how much time should go in there? How much time is going to work? How much time is going to spiritual things? How much time is going to your relationship? If you don't structure those, what's going to happen is life is going to take control of your decisions.
Absolutely.
Instead of you making the decisions to take control of your life, right? So that's something I've seen many times over and over. Every time that people come to me, I'm overwhelmed. I'm so busy. I have no life. I have things to do. I feel like everything needs to be done and things are gonna crack soon, where if I don't get this right, I've never been organized or someone like that. Maybe they're naturally disorganized. And so they come to me and I look at it and be like, do you know how much time you're spending in a day for certain things? And they have no idea. And once we look at it and analyze a week, we could see, wow, I'm spending 5 hours on my phone. Wow, I'm spending 2 hours preparing food every day. Or, you see these different things and you realize these can be changed and more, I guess, more systematic, more scheduled, more in control, so that once you go through analyzing and now starting to look at what is the ideal schedule you desire, you will start to see, man, I have free time. I have enough free time, maybe sometimes too much.
Yes.
So I always find it funny and interesting to see the epiphany that comes out of going through that.
Yeah, that's actually a fascinating idea because, maybe little things, like you said, cooking, instead of taking 2 hours, you could take an hour and a half, maybe an hour, condense things. Now you have an hour of free to apply it somewhere else. So, you really don't see time. I love that concept. You don't see time as budgeted because myself, I'm sometimes like, I'll hang out here for a little bit. I'll talk to this person for a little bit. But, when you begin to prioritize time in the aspects that you're saying, it really gives us that perspective and in guidance there.
And if I may add, even in Genesis,
yes,
it's so amazing how God introduces time. Because when he first created the world, that's when time started to come into place, right?
Yes.
The sun and the moon, the morning and the evening, and then him claiming the first day, second day, third day, all that, right?
Yes.
That is time.
Yes.
And so when God is introducing himself as, the creator in the very first verse of Genesis, he now starts to introduce, here is how time is going to be. And as he creates the things, everything is bound by time. But think about this. If God was bound by time, he would not be God.
Yes.
Right? He's an infinite being. He's above time. He's present in every moment. There is no past or the future for him because he is not bound by time. However, when he creates all the things of this earth, somehow he put it into a structure of time. And I believe there's a deep meaning in that and reasons why he might have done so. And so when you start to read chapter 1 of Genesis, you start to see that everything has its place. Each day has a reason and a purpose for what that thing is. He first sets the foundation of whether it's the stars or the heavens and the earth and basically the surrounding environment first, right? So he sets that up, and then he starts to create the things that will be living on those in those environments. And so this also tells us, just to sidetrack a little bit, our environment makes a difference in how we manage our time. So people say, be organized, be clean, and be get rid of clutter. There is a reason for that. I think even more than just feeling refreshed. It really is a part of God to set the right environment, the optimal environment for your creativity, for your productivity, for you to even connect to God in a spiritual level, deeper level, and in relationship. Your environment has that place, right? Imagine you trying to pray at a loud concert. How difficult that will be, right? But the opposite of where you are in a very peaceful place, maybe you have some bird sounds or something like, and you're able to now calm your mind to come closer to the Lord. Those things do affect us. And so God creates all the days, each day having its purpose. And what I also love, I don't know if you ever thought of this, and I don't know how to really look at it. If you see that after he created the environment, the creatures, he created them differently than the environment. So what does that mean? When he said, all of these things came by his words, right? He said and he came. But how he says it is different. Okay. So when it comes to the creation of light, let there be light, and there was light, right? And he keep going with firmament. He says, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together in one place to make this, land, right? So he says it directly to those things and creates the environment. But when it comes to, let's go to, verse 20, for instance, then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. So how did he create the living creatures? It sounds as if he delegated it to the waters.
I see.
Right? So in verse 24, let the earth bring forth the living creatures. You see how he is not just saying creatures come alive, right? He's not saying to directly the creatures, let creatures come together. Or he says the earth bring forth creatures. Earth was already something he created before.
Yes.
And this idea of, how even we as humans, he created us out of dirt. He could have created us out of nothing.
Exactly.
But he formed it from the ground, right? So there's this level of delegation that is taking place in creation. So when it comes to our time, it's also one of the most important parts. Not everything's meant to be done by you.
Okay, I see right? Where you're going. Yes.
I think we have this idea that everything great needs to come from our own hands, and it relies on it. There's also this whole thing about solo entrepreneurs, like, oh, you need to be alone and you're going to be the best because by yourself you could do all these things. No, we're meant to be a community. We're meant to be working together as a group. And even in creation, God uses the very own created things to create other things, right? So in case of our time, I think it's the same. How do you multiply your time? You delegate.
There you go.
So you're not doing everything by yourself. Now we come to a place of not only delegating to humans, but we delegate it to machines.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Tools and digital things that would help us to be more productive in the things that really doesn't need our own very hands to do.
Right.
So I love using, whether it is automations or even AI, to do some of the work for me so that I don't need to spend time doing them.
Yeah, that's a great principle. And as you were speaking, that theme kept coming out to me. Let them, in a sense, like you said, let them do it. Right. I don't have to only create them and then say, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. And this idea also works with us. God created us, but he says, be fruitful and multiply. You do that work, right? So there's a delegation process, even right to the creation of human.
Amen.
So what a astounding idea that we have tools in our repertoire to be able to delegate these things. Now, what would you advise then someone who is by themselves? Like, what tools are available for them? Obviously, we want to use the Bible as the sole principle.
Yes.
But what tools are available that you always recommend people use to delegate certain things of their time?
Okay, so if you're talking about like digital tools, there's some. They're project management systems or task management systems that you could say. I've used so many of them because I just get really, it's like a little child with toys. I test every single one. New one's out, I'm going to test this. There's this one new one from, what is his name? James Clear. Oh, James Clear? Man, I can't remember his name. Anyways, his last name is Clear. He has a book called Atomic Habits. And that's one of the most famous books when it comes to...
Yeah, you're correct. James Clear.
Yes. Productivity. He's one of the well-known gurus about that. And I would recommend that book for sure. And it helps you with your developing consistent habits and understanding yourself and why you do certain things habitually. So when it comes he just had an app that he made called Atoms. I haven't tried it yet.
Sure.
But something like that is cool. It's helping you to develop consistent habits, new habits easier. What I use is Notion. That's something that it's like a note-taking, but yet also you could use it as a productivity tool. I use that more so for teams. So I'm involved in different organizations. And when I bring teams together, I try to have all the tasks there. And Notion could be quite overwhelming for a lot of people because you could do so much with it. So something simple as I personally use TickTick. That's another app. You manage tasks. And what I love in any app, I know that it needs to have calendar. To me, I structure my days looking at my calendar and the list of things that I need to do. And I plug in all the things that I need to do into different days. That system has been working for me so well. And that's what I teach. It's kind of like budgeting. So you budget your day with that system. So I need both calendar and a list. So that TickTick, it's cheap. I think there's a free version as well that works. But I have, there's so many. I don't know if you want me to start listing them.
No. But I think we probably get the gist of it. And what I'm hearing is that, to develop new habits, there are apps that help us prioritize our tasks. And then with our daily events, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this needs to go here and here. I have used Notion a little bit before. I haven't actually kind of got into it, but I do have a lot of people that have actually recommended Notion.
Yes.
So you said Notion, TickTick, Atomic. You said there's a new one by James, Adam.
Yeah.
So we see,
and also ClickUp is a good one.
Yeah.
And those are more of a team project management systems that could be better for businesses and organizations. For mostly like single individuals, I think there's Microsoft To-Dos. That's a good one. It's free. They bought off Wunderlist. It used to be called Wunderlist, but they bought them out and they use that same thing. It's a simple. But I think for me, I need more than a list. Number one thing that you should do when you're starting out with trying to manage your time better is first dumping out all the things you have to do in one place. You have to see it. You have to see what you have to do, not just live it in your brain and try to remember what you have to do.
Now, just in a daily thing or like maybe weekly, monthly?
Everything. So no time limit.
Okay.
Just list out everything, every single thing you have to do. So that's the very first step I usually take people with. Brain dump. Take everything out, put it in a list so that you see what exactly you have to do. It could be 20, 30, 50 different things. Just put it out. Once you dump it out, remember to continue to dump it out because you're going to have tasks that comes to you from different people or as day goes. So you need to be, it's in a regular basis that you start dumping out. But the first one is going to be the most. Once you dump it out, you have to start looking at each one and saying which one of these could be delegated, which one of these do I really need to do, which one of these are important, not important, which one of these are something that is like a project that needs bigger, task organized to it to do that, or some things that you just need to archive. So you start making notes on each one, and then the things that takes you, and this is where I take the get things done philosophy. So it's a David Allen. He has a book called Get Things Done. And that there's a whole system with that, a process that you follow. So if it takes less than 3 minutes, I think you just do it right then.
Okay.
So I do that and I start to schedule these tasks that you have to do into your days, into your weeks. And I think that's really how simple it is, but it so works well where you don't feel that, man, I am missing something. Because now everything is on this. Like you don't have to worry about missing anything. So it really helps with people. And now you have the brain space to start thinking about things that matters more.
Yes.
Instead of trying to remember things to do, you just look at this list and you work on it for that day and you're done once that list for the day is done. And now you have things to think about, like your life, your purpose, and more about God and the Bible and even relationships, whatever it is that you have things to think about or bring in creativity to your work.
Yes.
That needs time and space to do it.
That's such an interesting perspective because it's like a computer, you're emptying up the storage make for a new memory. And, that's so powerful because our mind, a lot of times we recycle things and we keep things in our mind. We keep so many things that pile up. Like you said, it doesn't allow us to clearly think. And one principle that you said earlier that I really enjoyed is that if you feel like your mind is a mess, focus on maybe prioritizing and cleaning. I've heard so many times, if you feel like something in your life is a mess, but your room is a mess, clean your room and see how much clarity you get from cleaning things around your close personal space.
I love how you brought it up because you know why that works? A lot of times it's about motivation. Your feeling of yourself, the confidence you have in yourself. When you're at a place of feeling like a mess in your mind and your space is cluttered as well, you're going to feel not so confident about yourself and the choices that you're making. So something like cleaning your space, physical space, is something that anyone can do. Anyone can do this. It doesn't take a professional cleaner to make it happen. Like you could, as long as you have arms. Even so, those who don't have arms and sight, they clean.
Yes.
Right? So you can clean and you can organize. And that itself is just this level of now I am able to take control of my space. And it gives you that boost to start feeling like I could take control of my mind and the clutter that I have in my mind. So that's so important.
Yeah, it's like, what else can I take control of? Once I finish, okay, my room's clean. Well, now what else can I do?
Yes.
And I find so much joy in that. Like when I get to organize, it really allows my mind to be more organized, and not to find so much clutter. Some people say, oh, I have an organized mess. I always hear that a lot of times,
Yes.
but I really love that principle of, organizing your life really starts with the internal things, like things that are closer to you, or your room, your car, just things that your house, your whatever it is, right? Is making sure that is organized and clean, and it'll help you be motivated. That's the key, because we all struggle, especially men, struggle with motivation.
Yes.
Right? We struggle with motivation, and taking control of those small tasks motivates us to like, well, okay, what else I can take control of?
Yes.
Now, you talked about like prioritizing and responsibilities. Now, how can you ensure that we get the most out of our day when you prioritize your responsibilities and tasks?
Okay. I think I get your question. So you're asking is there anything that you do throughout the day that would make it the most productive day?
Yes.
Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
exactly.
I'm gonna take a little bit of. You're probably not gonna expect this answer, because what is being productive? What determines that you are productive? Is it that you finish 5 things in your list instead of 4?
Okay.
Or is it about the actual thing that you've done that makes a big difference? So productivity, I don't think it's always a quantitative thing. So not a list of things to do. Well, how I see it is, especially as a Christian, and I'm starting to realize this more. Let's say because productivity has to do with purpose. If you are fulfilling your purpose in that single day, then you are being productive. Because if you, at least that's what I call true productivity, not just I got things done faster, and so I feel like I'm being productive. That's, yes, in the world you could say that if you don't have a purpose, but just getting things done. But there's never an end to that. So I want to go even higher than just being productive. It's like, okay, did you fulfill your purpose today for the time that God has given you today? And so what does that look like? It looks like maybe you sitting down, and for me, sitting down and talking to my wife. Someone say that is not productive. You didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
But that's what I was meant to do today. And that was fully productive, even better than productive. I was purposeful in my decision today to spend this time with her, because that's what was needed today. And how do we know if that is the case? I always say, in the beginning of your day, you go to your creator and the one who knows your future.
Yes.
If you go to him, he will let you know what is your purpose for that day. And he can make it clear for you of what I am supposed to work on. And so it can be a schoolwork. If you're a student, it could be preparing for a test, but maybe it wasn't any of those for that day. Maybe it was something else, and you missed it because you were so caught up trying to do the schoolwork. But what if you investing your time on something that mattered more to God that day would have enabled you to study better and be more efficient with your studies on another day?
Yes.
I think God has ways that we really don't know, and it may go against what we think is natural and what makes sense to us. But sometimes everything he does doesn't make sense.
Right. And, when you were saying that, a scripture that came to mind is Proverbs 16, verse 3, where it says, commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established, right?
Yes.
And it's like, as we commit that day to the Lord, maybe what God has committed to us that day is, like you said, speak to your wife.
Amen.
Is witness to someone.
Yes.
Is be involved in the purpose of building his kingdom, and you'll see that your thoughts begin to align with the purpose that God wants you. But what we struggle with a lot of times is committing those ways to the Lord And because we struggle with that, we get to a fork in the road. We don't know where we go. But if we establish those thoughts to the Lord, He will commit, to us as well. It just really suggests that we need to align our thoughts and actions with God.
Exactly.
Right. And I really enjoy that, because how do you find people who may not be grounded as Christians or strong believers? How do you integrate, God's time management system into their lives? Because, God wants us to rest one day, right? On the Sabbath. He wants us to spend time with Him early in the morning. And some people might say, no, I need to get started my day right away to take care of these tasks. So how do you find integrating a Christ-centered system in time management?
Right. That's a great question too, because a lot of them, they may not know that I'm using a God system, right? Because I'm not putting it forth out there like, oh, this is God's system, but I'm telling them about the system. I'm teaching them about the system. I'm implementing that into their life, but they may not know that it comes from the Word. Yeah. Unless that we start to have that conversation, and I see that there's an opening for spiritual things. Yeah. Right. And I try to always look for those. But, at the same time, I don't have it all together where I know exactly how it's a person by person case.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, the part about God's system is that it works no matter who it is. And it works because He created the world and time. Right. So when I'm implementing, let's say, for instance, how do I put God into the mix of having that conversation or godly system into their lives if they are not, let's say, they care about God, or they don't care about God, or they don't know God, or they don't care about the miracles He can do, right? I think, let me try to think about one scenario. Give an example of just you sharing Christ in your daily life.
Sure.
I guess more so in the productivity space, and as I'm teaching and sharing, if they don't care about God, they care about themselves, right? So if they care about themselves, why do you need to rest?
Yes.
Like, do you desire rest?
Yes.
And giving them an opportunity to test it. Once you rest, are you more productive or are you not?
That's a good one.
So those things that maybe in the small sense of a test run,
sure,
like an experiment, and help them experience it. Once they experience it, it's like, oh, that worked. I need more of that. So people may say, oh, I don't need to sleep because I need to work, or I need to, maybe giving is more productive than taking, right? So people are trying to protect their time. It's all about me. Every hour, every minute, I need to do something for myself.
Yes.
But what if you were to spend that time for others? How much of a difference that could make, even in you. So I would try to give an experiment for them that doesn't take too much risk, and then trying to get them through that experience and help them know, hey, it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great example. Just, take them through a strategy that they may not have looked at, but it has is so integrated with biblical principles that they'll get the benefit. Like you said, try to take Saturday off, see what happens, and then they'll begin to see, hey, there's some benefit into taking this day off.
Right.
It may not always work that ideal, but even just taking a day off is important. And God, foresaw it from the beginning, right? He foresaw it that we're gonna need a day, especially in the world where we're just getting bombarded with so much busy work, with so much social media, with so many things. Sometimes just to reconnect with God.
There's a testimony about that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I was managing, my mom had a business, and she had several stores in different malls. And so I was helping her manage her business. I took on 3 of the worst stores that she owned, and I started to manage it. I was already a Sabbath keeper, and I had certain principles and standards, like putting more godly music into the floor of the retail store, and treating my employees a certain way. And so I implemented a lot of the things that I've learned from the Bible into the store. Now, my mom did not like it. she did not want me to do that. She's like, you're going to scare the customers away. And I also talked about I'm not going to work on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Right. Which is Saturday. And for them, for retail store, Saturday is the most busiest day.
Exactly.
So I started implementing these things. And after 2 years, and God just took it. My mom hated what I was doing. She was afraid she's going to lose her business and customers. The worst store that she had, which I managed, became top 3.
No way.
Became top 3 in sales. And so she couldn't believe it. She has no idea how this could be. But for me, it's obvious because we are following the principles of God.
Yes.
The employees, she used to have turnovers like every 6 months. She has to find a new employee and train them and stuff. My employees, they stay for 2 years, 3 years. They stay with us.
Yes.
Because they want to be at an environment where they feel safe, they feel cared for, they feel that there's a much more than just work, where they are gaining something more valuable for their future, where I will counsel them or help them with certain things and make them feel like your family. And so they didn't want to leave. And some of the employees that she had, they would lie, steal money and stuff. We had none of those.
Wow.
They would tell us if they did something wrong. They were so open because they knew that I wasn't going to just condemn them and criticize them and, fire them for no reason. So godly principles always come first. And once you start to do it, and people will see the difference.
Yes. Now, you mentioned something interesting too that I took from that. Environment plays a role in this aspect of time management. Now, how much does an environment play in the role of time management?
I don't know if it is about percentages or exactly numbers, but if your environment is squeaky clean and it's very nice and it's organized, and it's safe, let's say, but yet you're not putting all the effort into finishing that one task, then you're still not going to be productive. Here's a lot of extreme sides of other people. Some people who are very good at organizing do this. They spend more time organizing than actually doing the task. So they waste a lot of time making things look pretty and organized. And it really doesn't help them to be more efficient because there's so much processes and systems they put in place. And it takes more time to put the stickers there. And,
they put more obstacles in the way than needed.
Remember, the purpose of organization is not just to look nice.
Yes.
The purpose is for you to be more efficient.
Absolutely.
Right? More you to have more space in your time. So I think there is a level of that, and there is also a level of it's not just about organization and environment. Hopefully that answers.
Yeah, that was perfect. And maybe to shift the conversation a little bit, because we also want to make sure this is going out to men and women are getting a positive reinforcement from this. Do you see specific pressures or responsibilities that are typically faced by men with time management? Is it because a lot of times we think, I have to carry the load, I have to be the provider, the protector, and things like that. So what are maybe some societal norms that maybe can we as men be okay with and not feel like we have to carry that burden? Especially like you as a married man, especially you have to not only manage your time. Sometimes I don't want to say all of your wife's time, but you do have to manage your time together.
Yeah.
Right. So how does that work in the relationship?
Yeah, that's a deep question, because the role of a man, I think it has never meant to be easy. And I say that is for also men and women. When God calls us to have different roles in the Bible, and that's biblical. Unfortunately, the world doesn't think so, and we start to put the roles we switch those roles, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter who does it. The biggest argument that I've heard is whoever's better at it, they should do it. Right? It almost makes sense, right? It's like, okay, if you're better at this, then you should do that.
Yeah.
God never calls people because they're best at something to do that role.
That's right.
And at the same time, if you understand the purpose of marriage, you realize it's not about efficiency. That is, it's not about who does it best. Marriage is about love. Love means there is sacrifice and there's hardship, but there is also happiness, right? So it's not just about, okay, if this was just a job to get something done, sure, whoever is the best at, do that. But marriage is supposed to show the powerful workings of God by faith. There are certain things that you don't know how to do, but by faith, it comes through. And if you're in a ministry, you know this. If you're a Christian, you know this. The things that you may be doing right now, you may think, I never would have thought I would be doing this because I had no talent in it whatsoever. Like me speaking here, me speaking in front of hundreds and thousands, I have never in a million years thought I would do that because I had stage frights. I had speech impediments like stuttering so bad that people can't understand what I'm saying. And so right now, for me to even speak clearly is a miracle of in itself. So in case like this, where it comes to the man's role, what I want to say is there's no sugarcoating. It is hard. It's not going to be easy. You have been given a responsibility you probably can't do. And I think God did that on purpose. Because if He given you a responsibility that you can't do, why do you need God?
Right. Exactly.
So He says, I'm going to give you a role and a duty that is beyond yourself so that I can do it with you. And you realize that it is only through me that this can happen.
That's right.
And I realize I'm noticing that more and more as a man and as a husband in my marriage. It's like, man, I wasn't taught how to be a man. There wasn't male figures in my life to look up to. And I was more feminine in my ways, right? So I am learning. I'm learning more. I started learning before, but I'm learning more about how to be a man. Just the other day, we had an argument, and I had to realize, Stephen, you could go back and forth and try to argue of what is fair. That you should, my wife, talking to you should care about my feelings and how I feel. I could argue about that. And I usually do. Because I want to be cared for. I want it to be accepted. I want it to be acknowledged as well. But as a man, I had to realize, especially from what Christ instructs us in the Bible, of how I need to be able to lay down my life. And I am the representative of Christ to my wife, specifically Christ, right? She as the church and me as Christ. It's like, okay, what does that mean? It means that even though right now it may not sound fair, I should embrace what she needs and give her what she needs and put my feelings at the feet of Christ. Let Christ fulfill my desires and not try to get it from my wife, and receive that love from Christ so that I can give it to my wife. So when we were going back and forth, we're sitting on our bed, we were just going back and forth, and then that hit me. It's like, I'm supposed to be the man here. I need to embrace her. I need to cater to her. And so something happened where I felt like totally fine. Like I felt like I didn't need to try to get her to understand and provide my needs. I didn't need that. I just felt totally satisfied and content. And my wife noticed. She's just like, what just happened? And I'm like, I have no idea. But I feel like it's the Holy Spirit helping me right now because I feel completely fine. I understand totally what you're going through. And I started to explain to her what she was feeling. And what she needs. And I was like, I'm sorry I did that, and I understand this and that. And she just felt like, wow, this is so weird, but thank you. And so we were able to move on without any problems. So as a man, you are called to be in a higher standard, and more so as a leader. Any business knows leader gets the most acclimates when success happens, but when failure happens, you get the most blame, right? So you have this two extremes no matter what, because you are the leader. So as the leader of the home, you have to learn how to even lead your conflicts and arguments, and show still Christ in those moments.
Yeah, what a powerful perspective that, we are dependent on God, and we cannot do everything on our own, right? We have, and I love that you said there that earlier, that God made things in a certain way so we would be dependent on him, right? We need to be dependent on him in everything we do. So I'm guessing that you see that there is a difference between how men see time management and women see time management. Could that be accurate?
Is there a difference? I never thought about that. That's a good question. I haven't thought about it. Just off the bat in my mind, I think it's not, I don't know if it is a dependency of sexes, but it's more so different personalities.
I see. Yeah.
More so.
Yeah.
The work may look different between a male and female as well, but even in that work, the time management principles are still the same. So I don't know if I would say there is too much of a difference just in the different sexual orientation.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it may not be more gender-based, but more personality-based, right? Some especially as men, we see maybe things in bigger boxes, while women see things in more smaller boxes.
Yes, okay,
maybe,
I see that.
So maybe it could be something like that. But at the end of the day, I think you're right. It leans more towards personality rather than the gender. But again, then you also have that aspect of women prioritize things a lot differently. Yeah,
there is one thing.
Sure.
Women, they have the menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle affects your hormones, and it affects how you feel. It affects how you operate. So depending on your cycle and which phase of your cycle, you should understand that there are times where your management of yourself and task and time it does shift a little bit. So there are times when you're highly motivated. Okay. So in those times when you're highly motivated, maybe you work on the hardest things first, and you work on some things that you will focus on because it will come easily for you because there's that level of motivation already naturally from your physical body. And so you work on that first. And other times, maybe not. Maybe there are times like exercise, for a good example. There are times where you should be you're able to do vigorous exercises because your body's fine. It's at that high, you could say, of the menstrual cycle. And so you can do some of the things maybe you weren't able to do before and push yourself. But there are other times maybe you would take more of a relaxed approach because your body is not there. And I'm not saying it's by feelings, but your body cycle does determine a level of how you manage your energy and your time.
Now, do you think that time management in a relationship looks different, rather as in, like, maybe let's say you're prioritizing your month. Do you prioritize dates and spending time with your wife, and then comes work, and then comes these other things? Or, how does that look like in your relationship when you prioritize maybe certain events with your wife rather versus work?
Yeah, priority. So priorities are set, again, by God, I believe.
Okay.
And for me, there are seasons. So you all know that no matter what, God is most important. Right? So What does that look like? It looks different in different seasons. I have a basis, right? Where it's devotions and worship and going to church and those things, right? Those are the minimal basis. Sometimes there's more of it and there are sometimes less of it, depending on your season of your life. Right now, what we are trying to do, me and my wife, we're in a season before we have a child, we want to really grow our ministry and business. So we're in the season of hyper focusing on those things. And what does that mean? A lot of the things that we talk about, a lot of the things we do is pushing that forward. When it comes to relationship, my wife and I, we know that one of the most important parts of our lives is relationship and our relationship to each other and maybe people who are important to us. And so we have to think, okay, how much of our resources, money, time actually goes into that first, then other things. My wife and I, we do worship every day, but it's not just the worship of praising the Lord and reading the Bible, but also having a time to talk to one another. So it's a love of God and love towards each other, just like the 10 Commandments. And we orientate our worship in that way. So we actually have every single day sit down together, good an hour or so, just talking. It's like, how was your last 24 hours? What was going on? Some feelings you want to express. So that's a time of us just getting together. That has actually helped us not to make date nights mandatory. It's interesting how it works. I didn't want to do date nights. That's me being obvious. Kind of vulnerable here.
Sure.
I didn't. We had a big fight with the whole date night thing. She said we need to have date nights because everyone said we need to have date nights in order for us to have good marriage. But we realize most of those people who say date nights are necessary, they're usually working all the time and they don't have time to talk to each other and time for each other. So for us, we live together, we work together, we're always together. And so it's like, okay, that means we just need to set aside time for us to talk together. And it worked out. I don't need to spend so much money going out all the time. And try to make special thing every time, although I would love to and I still do. But it's not like a mandatory thing in order for our marriage to work. It's that more of the communion together during that worship. So that became our priority. Every day in the morning.
You know, the Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And what an example that you just showed, because, you know, the things that you guys are seeking are the things of God, of ministry, of making an impact in individual people's lives. And when you prioritize those spiritual matters, you know, the everything else, like you said, seems to just blend together. You don't need to go out on dates and stuff like that because you're so hyper focused on ministry and how God is using you guys. And you remember, we as believers, we have to remind ourselves that, you know, it's these standards that help us manage our time is when we focus on God first, when we have that relationship with God. And like you said, when we have a relationship with God, but the relationship with our fellow brother or sister, or, you know, your wife in this particular example, again, everything else seems to mesh together, right? There's no outside things that you need to do because you guys spend so much time together, but the main goal is ministry. So I really enjoy that aspect. And maybe as we, you know, come to a close here, we talked about maybe, you know, generation, maybe like older. Now, how would you maybe help Gen Z? Like, you know, when they have so much short attention span, how would time management help, you know, or maybe not help, but how would you counsel if I was, you know, 18, 19 and I came to you and I said, Stephen, I'm struggling with my time management. I'm involved with, you know, sports, or, you know, it could be a secular or it could be a Christian, but we're involved in so many things. You know, I feel like I don't have time to do anything, to live, I don't have time to be an 18-year-old, be a 19-year-old. How would you counsel an 18, 19-year-old Gen Z on time management when their attention span is, you know, as people would say, is a lot shorter than, you know, older generation?
number one thing, decrease the amount of dopamine hits you get. So I know we do talk and we do say their attention span is shorter. I want to challenge that a little bit, because if you've seen them on their phone or watching Netflix, they could sit there for hours and not pay attention to anything else, but seriously just sit there and watch it. Binge watching. That's not someone who has short attention spans. That's not someone who's not focused, right? So a lot of times I think they get distracted and they seem like they can't pay attention and stay attention, is because whatever they are trying to do is not fun. It doesn't give them that dopamine hit, and they don't feel happy watching it or listening to it. And it's too slow for them or something, right? So why does that happen? I had to realize this about myself, actually. The more entertainment I watch, the more Bible gets boring. Because whenever I'm watching a movie or things from a screen, those things are so exaggerated, so visually appealing that my imagination it's restricted to whatever I'm watching, right? And so now I go back to the Word and I'm just reading a bunch of words, on a paper, and it becomes boring. And I'm not able to go deeper into it because it's not giving me those side visual things of creativity and stuff to keep me in attention. And so I realize when I don't watch those things, the Bible becomes more alive. So if you're constantly, as a Gen Z or whatever, if you're constantly in media and entertainment,
Yes.
you are going to have a hard time with spiritual things. You're going to have a hard time having a conversation with someone sitting down, because it's not as fun. It's not the levels of your desire for that dopamine. It's so much higher. So I think that's number one thing that I would say. Start cutting them off. You will have withdrawals.
Absolutely.
So, but you need to start cutting them off to put them in a balanced level.
Yes.
And then when it comes to having more focus, it's realizing what truly matters to you. We keep coming down to purpose and importance. If you really care about maybe listening to a lecture and the topic, then you will pay attention. It's more so about you and how you perceive that, the value of what you're watching, more than the thing itself. It could be the most boring lecture, but you know how important this is, and you are interested in this subject so much, then you will embrace it. You will put everything that you can into this and try to focus, and you will. And so I think that is something. And also putting away distractions. This is Gen Z and everyone else.
Yeah.
Like if you have your phone next to you, and it goes off, that ring or vibration or even the screen coming on, it throws you off completely. And for you to get back to what you were focusing on before, it takes so much more energy. It takes more energy actually to switch off tasks than you doing something for a longer time. So what I mean by that is just like lights. If you leave it on, there's a level. I don't know what the graph is or what that looks like, what level it changes. But turning on and off, like the initial turn on, it takes more energy than staying on for a certain period of time. So the phone is the same. Put it away. Put it on silent. If people are dying, they'll somehow reach you, but it's probably not going to happen most of the time. So just put it away and focus on your thing for like 20 minutes. Put a timer.
Yes.
For 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That's a Pomodoro technique. And then focus on that for that time. And then you could take a break.
Yeah, and I've experienced that before. Like when I used to game, and like we talked about this before, I'd feel so much like I said, dopamine, so much like, it was just something that my brain was like receiving. So when I would stop gaming and maybe go try to read the Bible, it was just impossible for me to even look at the words and just read, because there's nothing like, I wasn't receiving what I was receiving when I was gaming. So that's like a personal testimony that you're absolutely right. When you feel that dopamine and you try to go read the Word of God, which requires just a different kind of focus, then you're just not able to. That doesn't seem entertaining for you, right?
No.
So it's so powerful. No, pause. Now, I want to talk about a little bit. I want to talk about what also that you do. I saw that you have compose.marketing as your website.
Yes.
And on there's online evangelism training, marketing strategies, email marketing, social media marketing, content marketing, so much. If people were wanting to reach out to you, and what can they expect from, Compose Marketing? What does that look like?
So that's my business for marketing. That's more other business and organizations that wants to share what they have, their product and service, and get more people's eyes on them. So we do, social media marketing or email marketing to make those things happen. Marketing strategies. Let's say you have a project in mind that you really want more people to know about, events, more people to sign up, we'll help with that. But in the case of time management, that's a little different. You could email me too for time management stuff, grow@compose.marketing, and let me know. And I have a whole process of an application you have to go through in order to kind of work with me in time management and productivity. So there's two different things.
Okay, so Compose focuses more on marketing.
Yes.
In a different way, but what was the other link that you gave us for
my
time
email?
Management?
Just send me an email.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's grow@compose marketing.
Yeah. So
compose.marketing.
Compose.marketing. Yes. And these are the different aspects of Steven that is involved in. And it's just been such a pleasure, Steven. It's been such an enlightening experience. Just picking your brain on how you have dealt time management. And, again, whether you're a man, female, Gen Z, whatever, we all in one sense struggle with the same principles in time management. Now, what other aspects of ministry involved as we close here? What other aspects of ministry are you involved and you're working on that we can see and look forward to in the future with you and your wife?
Yeah. So this is, again, I think a testimony part that you wanted me to share with that, where I used to try to manage all my time and trying to do ministry. So once God started teaching me time management and efficiency and organization, he started to put me in so many different ministries besides my business, right? So I have a full business, I'm running. And at the same time, I'm a husband of my home. We own home, so there's a lot that goes on to that, fixing things to whatever. And at the same time, I'm involved in my local church as the first elder. So I'm leading that church with my pastor. And that also, I'm involved in something called GYC. So I'm the marketing VP for that. And so there's a whole nother thing with that. It's a once a year event. Adventists, young Adventists come together, 3,000 to 4,000 people coming together to learn more about God and being inspired to do more for the Lord. And I'm also involved in ASI, Young Professionals. So me and my wife used to lead that group. Now I'm just helping out for a yearly. And I think that's the major roles that I have. So if you can imagine where my time goes to, and also the trying to help with men, right? Speaking around like this with me and my wife about relationships, marriage, and what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, things like that. So God has really put me in so many different things, but I don't feel too overwhelmed as long as I'm doing what I need to do and I have things organized for all these different organizations. So that has been really helping me to be used in a greater way than before. If I couldn't manage my time, I don't think I would be involved in half of these things. I can't, because I don't have the capacity. I don't feel like I do. But as of now, God has put me in these things and it's working quite well.
Yeah, and you mentioned that earlier is when we spoke, yesterday. You said that being able to manage your time has actually freed up time so you could take on more. And I was like, that's it seems contradictory. Like if you have more to take on, you should see more or less time management. But because you have organized yourself better, time management has become easy. And I found the quote, you said, not everything you can do is something you must do. And I was like, so that's such a powerful quote. Not everything you can do, you must do. And that is like the essence of time management, right? You prioritize everything and you begin to go, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do these 3 steps or 4 steps, however that looks like. Well, again, thank you so much, Mr. Steven. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was a pleasure. I mean, you could also catch Steven at the Hive event going on this weekend. Yes?
Yes, this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you speaking or?
No, I'm just attending.
Okay, he's just attending, so make sure you reach out to them. Again, can you just plug in your socials so people can reach out to you if they need to talk to you?
I'm in LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those. I really don't use a lot of them now. I'm going to get back on it because I need to. But simple, another letter E, so Simply Stephen, Stephen. So that's the handle.
Simply Steven.
Yes. My last name Lee. You see? Simply.
Yeah.
That's how I did it.
Yeah, very creative. Of course, marketing guru here, giving you a little tips on how to be more creative with your handles there. Well, again, thank you for joining us, Steven. It was a pleasure. And please reach out to Steven if you need anything on time management, and especially couples. We did a marriage seminar. Him and his wife are amazing. They have so much wisdom. They have so much experience that God has given them. So time management, marriage, marketing, consulting. This man does it all. So please reach out to him, and you will find a blessing in that.
Amen. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, Steven. Thank you so much.